Hi grade 7s, welcome back to another one of our video lectures or lessons. So today we're going to carry on where we left off, so that is page 86. Okay, so on page 86 we're going to do the worked example that's there on the top of the page, and you guys are going to do exercise 6.7. And then I'm going to show you how percentages work, and we'll do some exercises on those. And then for the weekend, you guys have the nice big blue revision section to do for the following week's Skype lesson, which will happen on Thursday. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm on page 86. I'm doing the worked example right at the top. Remember, we're still working with fractions, and now we're incorporating word problems and fractions. Okay, so the example reads, Lerato has 4/5 of her 20 crayons left in the bag. How many are missing? Okay, so she had a pack of 20 crayons. She has 4/5 left of those crayons, and she wants to know how many are missing. Okay, so let's first find out what is 4/5. Okay, 4/5 of 20. Remember, that's what the word problem really says. Find 4/5 of 20. That's what she has, and then we're gonna find out what she's missing. Okay. 4/5 of 20 equals 4/5 multiplied by 20 over 1. Okay, here I can cancel the 5 and the 20, so I divide by 5, I get 1. Divide by 5, I get 4. Okay, so it's 4 times 4, which is 16, over 1 times 1, which is 1. So really, she has 16 crayons left. But remember, the question asks how many have gone missing. So we got to answer the question. We can say, therefore, 4 are missing. Okay. Guys, it's always a nice practice in maths to read the question, answer the question, and then go back and read the question again to just make sure that did I actually answer the question, the thing that they asked, or did I just give them a whole bunch of workings and then went off on my own mission? Okay, so read the question, answer, read it again to make sure that you've actually done what you were supposed to. All right, guys, so that is number 1. Let's look at number 2. Okay, number 2 says two of the ingredients to make pancakes are cake flour and water. To make 9 pancakes, a recipe requires 240 grams of cake flour and 900 milliliters of water. Felix would like to make only 3 pancakes. Can you help him decide on the measurements to make only 3 pancakes? All right, guys, so let's think about this, right? We have a recipe to make 9 pancakes. That's how much flour and water you need, 240 grams and 900 mils. So that is 9 pancakes. He only wants to make 3. What fraction of pancakes does he actually want to make? Well, he wants to make not 1 out of 3. He wants to make 3 out of the 9 that the recipe is saying. So out of the total pancakes in the recipe, what proportion does he want to make? Well, he wants to make 3 over 9, which is divide by 3, we get 1 over 3. Okay, so that gives me 1, that gives me a 3. Okay, so he wants to make 1/3 of the pancakes. So that obviously means that he needs 1/3 of the total ingredients. So let's work out how much ingredients he'll need. So he requires 240 grams of flour, but he only wants 1/3 of that. So we want 1/3 of 240 grams. Well, that equals to 1/3 multiplied by 240 over 1. Okay. Can we simplify this? Does 3 go into 24 or 240? The answer is yes. It goes 8 times or 80 times. Okay, so we divide by 3, we get 1. Divide by 3, we get 80. Okay, 1 times 80 is 80. Over 1 times 1 is 1. So the answer is 80. 80 what? Grams. Okay, guys, remember at the end of your calculation, you're always giving me whatever units you are giving me. Okay, sometimes we won't give you units, so you're going to write there 80 units if I don't tell you what I'm measuring in. Okay, Right, so that was for the cake flour. Now we need to see how much water he needs. So he's using 900. So I'm going to erase that. So we want a third of 900 milliliters of water. Okay, that equals to 1 over 3 multiplied by 900 over 1. Does 3 go into 900? Yes. We divide that by 3, we get 1. Divide that by 3, we get 300. Okay, 9 by 3 is 3, add the zeros. Now, 1 times 300 is 300 over 1 times 1 is 1. 300 over 1 is just 300. 300 what? Milliliters of water. Okay, guys, so that's just again taking things a little bit further. You're now using fractions and you're using word problems. You're deciphering the word problem and then answering the question. Okay, so we're really building up as we go along. Okay, guys, so exercise 6.7, I want you to try yourselves. Those are also the same word problems that we just done. Try to express the words in terms of symbols and maths, and then translate that into the next step and the next step, and see if you can get it right. Okay, guys, we'll look at these if you have any issues next time. So try 6.7. All right, next section is going to be percentages. Okay, now percentages are really just a special fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, also percentage comes from a Latin word, means per century, per cent. Okay, so per century, so if I say 5%, it means 5 per century. And remember, century from cricket, I don't know if anyone watches cricket here, but century is 100 runs, okay? Or a century is just 100 anyway. So 7% is 7 per 100. And 7 per 100 is really just writing 7 over 100. Okay, so if I say 7%, that is equivalent as 7 over 100. Okay, and also we can turn the 7 over 100 into a decimal. Remember, what do we do when we divide by large numbers? We move the decimal comma back and forward. So if I have 7 divided by 100, there's the comma where it usually is. I'm dividing by 100, so I'm going to move the comma to the left by 2 places. So 1, 2, comma goes there, so it's a 0, comma, 0, 7. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see of the glare there. Let me try that again. Let's do it here. So 7, there's the comma, 7.0. Okay, but we don't write the 0.0. So the comma is usually there. We move the comma 1, 2 places to the left. Put the comma there. So it's 0, comma, 0, 7. So 7 divided by 100 is 0, comma, 0, 7. Okay, guys, these three things are equivalent. They mean exactly the same thing. So if I give you this and I say, how many percent is that? You have to tell me it's 7%, because the percentage is a denominator of 100. Okay, so if we start with a percentage, I say 10%, turn that into a fraction. All you do is you divide by 100. Okay, if I give you a fraction and I say turn that into percentage, all we're doing is we're multiplying by 100. Okay, so if that went straight over your head, don't worry. We're going to go through all of these examples on page 87, and they're different examples testing different things in percentages. So we're going to do all of them, and then after that, there's a nice exercise 6.8 for you guys to try. Okay, all right, so let's start. All right, so a percentage is a special fraction with a denominator always of 100. This means that the whole is always divided into 100 equal parts. The sign percent is used to denote the denominator 100. For example, 44% equals 44 out of 100. It is useful to note that 44% is also 0.44, and that 44 over 100 equals to 11 over 25. Okay, guys, I'm just reading the top paragraph on page 87. A few common percentages and their equivalent forms are shown in the following examples. All right, so it's pretty much the same thing as I said just now. So now let's work through the examples and turn percentages into decimals. Okay, so first we have 100%. Okay, 100%, to turn that into a fraction or a decimal, to get rid of the percent sign, we divide by 100. So 100% is going to be 100 over 100, which is going to give us 1. Which means that, yes, we have one whole pie. It's 100% of the pie. That's what it's trying to tell us. Okay. Let's look at 75%. So 75% equals, it's 75 divided by 100. And this will simplify to what? Well, divide by 25, we get 3. Divide by 25, we get 4. So we get 3 over 4. And 3 over 4 is 0.75. Okay? Because remember, a quarter is 0.25. 3/4 is 0.75. All right. So if you guys look at that first example, they go through 50%, 25%, 10, and 5%. Okay? It's all exactly the same. Now, there is a minor little mistake on the last one. So they do 5%. I don't know if this is in your book as well, but mine was from 2 years ago, so maybe they've changed it. But basically what I'm trying to show you is the 5% in that same example section. So they say 5% equals to 5 over 100, which equals to 1 over 20, which equals to 0.05. Okay. In the book, they have 0.5. Okay, and that is incorrect. It should be 0.05. Okay, I'll try to show you if you guys can see on the book here. So there we go. See where it's crossed out with my pen? It should be 0.05. All right, cool. So let's carry on. Now, the next question can give you fractions of scores. So think about the test that you guys write, right? Sometimes it's out of 20. Sometimes it's out of 30. Sometimes it's 45. Sometimes it's 60. How do you actually get your mark in terms of a percentage? Percentage is always out of 100. So whenever you ask someone, what's your percentage mark? And they say 35%, you know what they're talking about, because you know when we talk about percentages, the maximum they can get is 100, and they have a mark of 35. Okay, so let's continue. So the next example really says, which score is better, 15 over 50 or 8 over 25? Okay, so let's check. We have 15 over 50 or 8 over 25. All right, so we have exactly the same problem. We cannot compare the two fractions because they have a different denominator. Okay, but since we are dealing with percentages, what we want to do is we want to turn these denominators into a denominator of 100. Because if we can do that, then we've turned the two fractions into percentages, and we can say which one is bigger with no problem. Okay, so for this one over here, 15 over 50, I know I can turn this 50 into 100 by multiplying by 2. So I'm going to times by 2 times by 2. So I'm going to get 30 over 100. Okay, so this person got 30 out of 100 correct. This person over here, well, 8 over 25. The 25 I can turn into 100 by multiplying by 4. So I multiply top and bottom by 4. So at the bottom I get 100. At the top, 8 times 4 is going to be 32. So this person got 32 out of 100. So which score is better? Well, the score of 8 out of 25 is obviously better than a score of 15 out of 50. Okay, so again, we have to get the common denominator. In this case, the common denominator is 100 because we're dealing with percentages. Okay. All right, so let's continue. Or actually, one more step here. Let's turn this into actual percentages. Remember what I said? If we have a percentage and you want to go to a fraction, we divide by 100. If I have a fraction, which is what I have now, to get to a percent, I multiply by 100. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to times by 100 here. No, I'm going to multiply by 100 and the 100 will cancel. So we'll have 30%. Okay. And this here, we multiply by 100. The hundreds cancel. This equals to 32%. Okay. All right. Okay, let's continue. So now we get to the next example. So the percentage form of a fraction can be easily calculated by multiplying the fraction by 100, for example. Okay, so let's look at these examples. Let's start with number 1, 3/5. Okay, so I have 3/5. To turn this into a percentage, one way to do this is to say, get a denominator of 100 and then work it out and then convert it to a percent by multiplying by 100. Because anything with a denominator of 100 can easily be turned into a percentage, because that's what it really is. Percent is a value over 100. Okay. So what I was trying to say is that we can turn this 5 into 100 by multiplying by 20, like we did in the previous example. Or we can use another method which simply states that if I have a fraction and I want to turn it into a percentage, all I do is I multiply by 100%. Okay, so 3/5 multiplied by 100 would equal to, well, 100/1. We can see what's cancelling, this 5 and the 100 there. So we cancel that 5, we get a 1. Divide that by 5, we get a 20. 3 times 20 is 60 over, well, 1 times 1 is 1, so I'm not going to put over 1, but it's 60%. Okay. Okay, so all that I did there is multiply by 100. Whatever fraction I have, I times it by 100, cancel, and my answer will be in percentage form. Okay. Let's do another one. So let's look at number 4, 12/30. So we have 12/30 multiplied by 100/1. So I'm multiplying it by 100 to turn the fraction into percentages. Okay. So what can I do here? Well, let's cancel. Here I have a 30. I know a 10 goes into there and a 10 goes into there. So I'm going to divide by 10 and get a 3. Divide by 10 and get a 10. Okay. Now I also have this 12 and this 3. I know that 3 goes into a 12 and 3 goes into 3. So I divide that 3 by 3 and get a 1. Divide that 12 by 3 and get a 4. Okay, so what do I have left over? I've got that 4 times 10, which is 40, over 1 times 1, which is just 1, so we don't need to write that. So it's just 40%. Okay, so a score of 20, what was it? 12 out of 30 is actually 40%. Okay. All right, guys, let's continue. So again, if we have a fraction, that's how we change it to a percentage, multiply by 100. If it's easier to turn the denominator into 100, then that's what you do, like we did in the previous example. All right, let's look at the last worked example. So the last worked example says calculate 20% of 80. Okay, so 20% of 80. Okay, so let's say I have 80 Rand and I say you can have 20% of the 80 Rand. How much money is that? Okay, let's work it out. Well, to get rid of the percentage sign, what do? We divide by 100. Okay, so this will equal, so the 20% will be 20 over 100 of becomes multiplication. 80 we can put as 80 over 1. And now what we can do is we can cancel. Okay, let's try to cancel. So I can see a 10 goes into here and into the 80. So I divide by 10, I get a 10. I divide by 10, I get an 8. I also notice that there's a 20 and a 10 here, so I can divide these two by 10. I divide by 10, I get a 1. I divide by 10, I get a 2. Okay, is there anything else left to cancel? No, I've got 1s at the bottom, so that's fine. So let's multiply the top. 2 times 8 is 16 over 1 times 1 is just 1, so we'll leave it as 16. So 20% of 80 is 16 Rand if we're talking about money. Okay. All right, guys, so the rest of the exam, well, the rest of them is just the same thing, whichever ones I didn't cover. So have a look at those if you get stuck. All right, let's go to the next page, which is now exercise 6.8. Now with exercise 6.8, it brings everything together what we've been covering so far. So I want you to do 6.8 and I want you to do exercise 6.9. Okay, so those two are going to be your homework for Friday. And for the weekend, guys, since you don't have any weekend plans and you're not going to the movies or parties or anything, I know you're going to get terribly bored at home and you'd want to do some maths homework on the weekend. So that's why I'm giving you this blue section on page 89 to complete for the following week, Thursday Skype session. Okay, guys. So the following week's Thursday Skype session, I'm going to be doing primarily this revision. And yeah, okay. All right, cool, guys. So that's that. So homework for today, 6.8, 6.9, and homework for the weekend for Thursday the following week is revision on page 89. Okay, cool, guys. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on Thursday.